Good afternoon and welcome to Oran Park on what is a breezy, warm but comfortable afternoon. What is the final practice day and time qualifying trial day for the big production bike race to be held here tomorrow starting at 9 o'clock. It's the Yamaha 750 production bike race, and it could well develop into a battle between Yamaha and Suzuki. In the time trials that we've seen so far this afternoon, the fastest bikes have been the Suzukis and the Yamahas, although a couple of Kawasaki's and Hondas have put in some good performances. Will Hagan and John Smales will be talking to some of the riders and talking about the performance that we've seen through the day during the next half an hour. We've seen no real drama out here. Most of the bikes have been running fairly comfortably. No one seems to be having any problems at the moment. As I said, it's a very comfortable afternoon, but we have had some very good time trials indeed. Here's Will Hagan to tell you about them.
Riders now warming up for one of the richest production bike races in Australia, the $20,000 Yamaha 750. It's called 750 for two reasons, because it's limited to 750cc machines, because it's over 750 kilometres. Bridge now in one of the final qualifying sessions, looping down to the out of the S's and off towards Yamaha corner is bike 29. Simon Jones, Ron Porter from Victoria sharing a Z750 Kawasaki. This is the dog leg. By G, riders have to get in hard on that apex and go as the bike gets light over the top there, down to BP. And this is BP Ben, the scene last year of nearly a catastrophe, as one of the bikes there indicating that he's going to the pits. That's the traditional signal. It's the end, in fact, of that qualifying session. And what's been a very hard, contested and tense afternoon, very close among the leading machinery. We've seen Suzuki, Yamaha up the front of the qualifying, but Honda getting a look in too, and Kawasaki qualifying about 9th fastest. And let's talk to the man who won this race last year with John Smales, Len Willing.
Len Willing, the inaugural 750 saw you being very much an underdog. This year, I guess you go into it exactly the same way again.
Very close, actually. A little bit better. We've qualified one position higher so far. There's still a few times to go. But last year we were down on a fuel stop on the big Suzukis, but this year they've got a faster motorbike and a smaller petrol tank, so they have to stop just as many times as us.
They also have 4 valves per cylinder compared to your 2 valves per cylinder, and on a hot day like today, you must be losing horsepower to them.
We do lose a little bit on a day like today. Today, the weather will play a big part in it because of tyre wear and so on, brake pads, rider wear, everything. You know, it's sort of the heat. Last year in August, it was a lot cooler, a very cool day. This year, we're going to have to make a tyre change, I think, on our motorbike.
And you've got a shaft drive, which of course leads you into all sorts of troubles, does it not?
No, it's relatively quick to change wheel, actually. We should be able to do it, provided there's no hitches, in about 40 seconds all told.
You've chosen a fairly strange tyre combination too, Pirelli on the front and Metzeler on the back. Most people are tending to go for one brand all round.
Yeah.
Why have you done that?
Well, I prefer the rear tyre at the moment to what's around, and it's the same combination as we used last year, which proved very healthy. But the main reason I think people stick to 2 tyres is as far as the tyres coming towards getting the tyres and that sort of thing, the tyre companies like to have 2 on instead of 1. If you win with 1 rear tyre and a different front tyre, that's not very they can't advertise it very well. You know?
Well, one of Len Willing's biggest competitors tomorrow is his teammate Ron Bolden. Let's see him now in action at Oran Park in practice for the Yamaha 750.
Roger Hayes there on bike 3, just heading the second of the Yamaha dealer team bikes, Ron Bolden and Gary Coleman's Yamaha XJ 750. They came through into second place in last year's race, and that's the sort of traffic they'll be facing throughout this race because of the evenness of all the bikes in the 601 to 750cc class. Gary Coleman missed out on taking the Australian Unlimited road racing title in the last round at Sandown, as he calls now to the pits, brought down on oil in practices and very sore the next day. He raced but was beaten by Graham Muir to the title, in a title that he looked to have wrapped up all through the year. Ron Bolden, his teammate, Again, Australian 500cc title winner after a few years ago winning the 350 title, and of course some wonderful Grand Prix wins at Bathurst.
One of the fastest road races in Australia, Ron Bolden. What's it feel like to be on one of the slowest bikes that you've ever ridden?
Yeah, well, it's a bit different to what we're normally racing, but it's yeah, it's the conditions. The bikes are the same basically for everybody with the Yamahas, so we've just got to get out there and do the best we can with what we've got.
You're probably more renowned as a sprint racer, however, than as a long distance man.
Well, that's right. I'm not, right into these long distance races. I get tired very easily. But it's a situation where over the last 2 years we've come second out here, third of the 6 hour race, so we're starting to get a bit of a good reputation.
The Yamahas, of course, are a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of horsepower, but they're right on in terms of the riders that are on the machines. What sort of team tactics can you and Len Willing undertake tomorrow?
Well, what we've got to do, with us being down on power, we've got to really get out there and go as fast as we can to start with, and be right on them and push the other riders to their limits all the way through.
Does that mean that you'll be pushing and Len will be holding back, hoping that you'll break the opposition?
No, I think we'll both be trying very hard.
Have you been given any team orders at all as to who should win the race? Should it be between you and Len?
Well, we can't really say that at this stage, but no, it's really we've got to get out there and whoever's the quickest on the day is going to win it.
One of the biggest dangers tomorrow in the Yamaha 750 is going to be a Suzuki 750 ridden by Roger Hayes, twice winner of the Castrol 6 Hour.
Roger Hayes, in a quite star-studded career in road racing, has tended to concentrate on production and superbikes, and tomorrow in the Yamaha 750 race has switched to Suzuki. His sponsor, Gus Lu Motorcycles, has forsaken Honda, gone over to this futuristic-looking silver-shaped Suzuki Katana, which he'll be sharing with Tasmanian Malcolm Campbell. Both of them very quick, very hard riders. Nothing they like more than an on-track argument against somebody else who's fast. Both of them last year had bad injuries, both at Bathurst. Malcolm Campbell broke a leg, and Roger Hayes landed chest first into a concrete barrier, and perhaps if he wasn't as fit and as strong as he was, may well have been very seriously injured or worse. He really was gasping for breath for a very, very long time, was badly knocked about. Then later in the year, playing around at the 6 hour dirt race at Nepean track, fell and broke a wrist and was kept out of the Castrol 6 hour race. He's just slowing now, but settling into the Suzuki, which on paper and on pre-race form is one of the bikes to beat. One of the more favoured bikes, but on track performance it's got problems. See the big cover there on the left side sticking out? Well, the one on the right hand side's even more important, and you can see it there forward of Hayes' foot, quite a bulge, and it only takes 3 or 4 fairly light taps on the ground to pierce that cover, drop the oil. Of course the bike has to be fitted for repair, but also it can cause problems on the track for other riders.
ABC Sport would be like to be the first to congratulate Roger Hayes and his wife Judy. You're just back from honeymoon, Roger, in Fiji. Is that going to slow you down at all?
Well, the hardest part is trying to get used to this type of speed again. The Fijians have got a very lazy atmosphere about them, so we're still very relaxed at the moment.
Marriage hasn't stopped the animal, Hayes?
Oh, I hope not.
Right. You're riding a new bike, of course, the new Suzuki Katana. It's an entirely different machine to those which you've been riding in the past, the Hondas, where we're most used to seeing you. What sort of different riding technique does it take?
Well, the main thing with the Suzuki, it's very light to throw around. And when we first came out here on Wednesday, we were throwing around too much and hitting the engine on the ripple strips and things like that. But we're starting to get used to its feel at the moment, and we're going pretty good.
One of the biggest problems with the Suzuki is its alternator cover, which tends to bottom on the track and leak oil. What riding technique do you have to undertake?
Well, when we're lapping by ourselves, we don't have any problems. It's when we get in lap traffic and we change lines to try and pass, and that's when we start to hit the bumps and different things. So I think we're going to be doing more alternator changes than wheel changes tomorrow.
Yeah. Roger, it's a big field tomorrow and a very, very aggressive and savage field. What's the technique for you?
Well, we'll go as fast as we possibly can. We'd like, if we could, to sit in about third until about the first hour. Run third to fifth place, and then start to make our move from the second to third period onwards.
Well, one of the most aggressive teams in the race tomorrow is the new Honda team of Andrew Johnson and Greg Pretty, riding for the first time for the Honda team together.
Have a look at this for speed and fierce determination. Riding his favourite number 2, Andrew Johnson on number 7. He's been joined for this race by Greg Pretty, the very talented South Australian. He's left the Pitman's Yamaha team and come with Johnson to a Honda contract which shows promise of overseas rides in the long-distance race, for instance, at Suzuki later this year. That's all but certain. And they are very quick and highly determined. As Johnson says, Australian Unlimited champion and Grand Prix winner at Bathurst. This is the first time I've been tied down in my rides for the last 3 years. The handicapped Victorian with a weak left arm from a bad accident when he was 16, a hydraulic hose shattering his arm and hand. A very hard rider that frightens some of the other riders by his determination. Rarely crashes, although he did crash in Canberra recently. But pulling up there, you can see. But this really will be a team to watch. Getting together on Honda. He's had a few guest rides for Honda, Johnson, but it's the first time Greg Pretty has been on Honda for a very long time. Bike number 7, as with its team bike number 6, Glenn Taylor and Graham Muir, running radio communication to their pits, and apparently reception is very good. The pits can hear them quite clearly when they're talking around the back of the circuit, and they can hear the talk back from the pits, so it just might be an added help. It's the only 2 bikes in the race running radio communication. The receiver is actually hidden in the back tail section there, where you would have the number plate and the rear light.
Fierce rivals in their day and now teammates, Andrew Johnson and Greg Pretty. You've got a secret weapon. What's in the helmet?
Well, it's a two-way radio, John. It's, we can receive and transmit on it. It's the latest thing in motorcycle racing. I think it's the first time it's ever been introduced to racing. We can tell the pit boys what's going on with a motorcycle, when our fuel stop's about to happen, etc., etc.
Yeah. Greg, what about if someone calls you up in the middle of a corner at a bad time?
We say pardon and get them to repeat it. It's about right.
You're not concerned that it might throw you off in your concentration?
No, we've been trying that all throughout the circuit, and we found there's no real bother, actually.
The Honda you're riding tomorrow is, for both of you, probably the slowest bike you've both been on for a long time. What's the riding technique for you? How does it feel to ride something so slow?
Oh, just against the stop, that's about all you can do with it, actually.
You've got to ride it very hard.
Very hard, yeah.
You're really taking the brakes to their limits?
Yeah, well, the Suzukis are going fairly well, and well, they're quite a fast motorcycle to start with, so you know, we're just going to have to ride it flat out for the whole event. Do the Suzukis, in your estimation, have any disadvantage? Well, as far as I can see it, perhaps just the general layout of the bike. I feel that over a longer event they could be more tiring on the rider than our particular machine, but tomorrow will tell, because it's a damn long race, and we'll see how the riders fare towards the end. It's very unusual in Australian motorcycle racing to see 2 number 1 riders on the same bike. Does the competitiveness between the 2 of you still exist, Andrew?
No, that's long forgotten. Yes, we used to be dicing for hell for leather on our 750 Yamahas. We've both won our Australian titles now, so now we're teammates, and we hope to keep the Honda flag up high.
Andrew Johnson says that with a smile on his face. Let's see Michael Cole now, one of the new competitors again in the Yamaha 750.
Always nice to see a talent shining through, and that's what's happened recently to the Victorian or Albury rider Rob Phillis. A very talented rider who always had trouble with money and getting the team effort right, was taken into with Mick Hone, who's incidentally tied up with car race driver Johnny Harvey, and has really shone last year. He had a wonderful year, winning the Victorian Superbike Championship, being very quick, one of the men to beat at virtually every race meeting on production or superbikes. As you can see, they're running a Suzuki Katana, and he's been joined by a man who I don't think's ridden anything else but Honda in his career up until this meeting, Victorian Mick Cole. He was the man who was a B grade gave the CVX six-cylinder Honda its world racing debut and victory at the Calder Tour, and has now come into the Mick Home camp, and he has really blossomed also. He's been known as a very consistent rider, Cole, but one perhaps who practices a little slowly and who takes a little while to get warmed up in a short race. But at a recent meeting in South Australia, he beat Rob Phillips in one race, and the Mick Home team said, goodness, we brought him in for his consistency and his long distance abilities, but here he is beating our star rider. And so it will be a very quick team also, certainly one of the front runners, but again, potentially dogged by the Suzuki ground clearance problems.
On a Suzuki again, and the pairings in this year's Yamaha 750 are incredible. Michael Cole and Rob Phillips together on the Suzuki Katana. Rob, you've been riding the Suzukis for the last 2 years. You're probably more aware of what the bike can do than is Michael.
Oh yeah, I think that Michael's got a lot yet to learn about them, but he's doing very well at the moment, and if he gets better, he's going to be really tough to beat in the future, and I think he's going to go very well.
Well, you two blokes are in the same team this year, and again we face a situation where we've got two number one riders in one team. How do you sort it out between the two of you?
Oh, we like to try and stay ahead of the rest of the field, and we don't worry where we finish as long as we finished in front of the rest.
1 minute 22.6 seconds, your fastest time. That's pole position for tomorrow's Yamaha 750. Michael Cole, what's the team tactics for tomorrow?
Well, last year it was a bit of a battle because everyone went really fast and didn't finish the race. They only lasted about 5 hours. So we've really got to have a bit of a rethink. We know we can go faster than anyone out there because it's been proven by the lap times. What we might do though is just sit back and let someone else set the pace. Maintain constant times, but by all, the most important thing is be there at the end.
Well, that's very much been always your style, but Rob, you're regarded as something more of a hard charger than that.
Oh, well, I intend to start the race and see what happens from there and see if we can make a break for it, but I don't really know. We just sort of sit back and see what happens. Just watch and hope for the best, I think, for a change. Instead of trying to lead the race, I think it's better to stay back.
And Chris Oldfield. Oldfield, an Englishman, who's settled here and has gone very close to taking out Australian 250cc titles, and Paul Lewis, who is an absolute demon on 125cc bikes. Spindly little build he is, but a man of enormous talent and determined to go overseas too if he can. Not tucking down there on the bike very much, but they'll be dead serious tomorrow, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do. There are 14 Yamahas in the race, but only 4 of them in the outright class. 14 of the Katana Suzukis, all running outright. 10 Honda 750s, 8 Kawasaki's and 2 Kawasaki GPZ 550s in the smaller class, and 5 Ducatis, of which only 1 is in the 750 class. So it's an interesting clash between brands as well as between teams. And this is the tight back section of the Grand Prix Oran Park circuit.
Well, if size means stamina, Paul Lewis, you're going to have a big problem tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh no, I think the less weight you've got, the less weight you've got to hang around and to pull around, and I sort of get sort of mentally tired, but not so much physically tired.
You're used to more riding the Grand Prix bikes. How does it feel to be back on a production bike with its obvious limitations on a racetrack?
Yeah, it's very different. Like the tyres, we use standard road tyres, standard road bike, and they sort of tend not to handle, they tend not to stop, and they tend not to go, so you've got to adapt totally different to ride them.
But you tend to make a fair bit of money out of them as a professional rider.
Yeah, it's a pity that, you know. A lot of people would like to make more money out of Grand Prix racing, but this is the sport what's making the money. This is the style of motorcycle that's making the money, so we've got to ride them.
The GPZ 550 Kawasaki is a brand new bike on the Australian market, just released. Where do you see it having advantages over those the opposition?
Oh, the GPZ 550 is a trick bike. We're riding the Z750L2.
Course, yes.
The GPZ seems pretty quick, and I can hardly wait till the GPZ 750 comes out.
In fact, that would have about 8 horsepower more than the bike you're riding at the moment.
Exactly, yeah.
Where then do your disadvantages lie on the L2 against the Katana?
Well, they've made sort of no changes to this late model, yeah, apart from they're pretty reliable, and we hope to just sort of start the race. We've got a pretty quick time, 23.5 qualifying, so we're just going to run consistent, be there at the end.
You and Chris Oldfield, of course, are regarded very much as thinking riders amongst the motorcyclists. If it turns into the sort of elbow-bashing 5-lap sprint that we're expecting at the beginning, where will you be?
We should be up there. We know a bit about that sort of style racing. Me and Chris have sort of got together and we've had a few sort of wild races together. So as a team, I think we should be able to do pretty good.
Paul Lewis, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, John.
There have been some defections from Team Honda, but there's also been some joinings. And young Glenn Taylor, who was a 750cc specialist rider, who's stepping very well into the absent shoes of Dennis Neal, injured from last Bathurst, has been joined by Graham Muir, who at the last dramatic round of the Australian Road Racing Championships on pure race bikes in Sandown last December, took the unlimited title and therefore will remain the everlasting holder of that title because it will not be run again for some time. It's certainly defunct for the moment. So Graham Muir and Glenn Taylor. Muir some 26, 27 years old. Taylor much younger, not quite as good in traffic as some of his more experienced riders, but very quick on a motorbike around the circuit, as you can see here. That's a very quick back section there and a lot of braking required to bring them into this corner, a third gear corner, and a blast of acceleration under the bridge and then up to this stop corner, and it's most deceptive. Gee, it's easy to go in too deep there because it's a very tight corner. It looks a nice long good straight and you can get on an enormous amount of speed there before you have to come and stop for that one, and then this stop corner where the only real line is to dive in very deeply, braking right up to the apex and then just gun it out, and you're gunning it hard as you come over the bridge there. Commit yourself blind to this fast sweeping section and do anything wrong and you're in a lot of trouble.
New South Wales Team Honda has picked up Graham Muir after you were left without a ride following your great victory in the Australian Unlimited Championships last year, Graham. This is your only ride for the year, as I understand it.
To this date, yes.
What are you going to do?
Don't know about that one.
Does tomorrow then mean that you've got to prove a lot to someone to try and get another ride?
Well, I like to think I've already proved that. Don't have to do it again, but I suppose it might have to be that way.
You're one of the riders tomorrow who has a physical doubt. You broke your shoulder in the Sandown weekend in November when you went for the Australian Unlimited Championship. Just what sort of stamina have you got for tomorrow?
I feel I'm 100% fit at the moment. I've been exercising a lot and sort of doing a lot of water skiing, so that helps. Yeah. But my shoulder's good now, it feels fine. I wouldn't like to fall off on it again just yet, but as far as fitness goes, yeah, my muscles are back up to scratch and I feel fine on the bike.
What's the team tactics tomorrow? Who'll start the race?
Well, looks like I've been volunteered to start the race, and that's about it really. We just have to just ride the best we can because you can't really put a tactic down, because if you decide to take it easy, some blokes love to take off, and you know, if you go for the finish, well, the chap who goes fast just might finish too. You just sort of go as fast as you can, I think. And
what sort of pace do you see being held tomorrow?
That's a hard question. I can't see it being as fast as last year. I'd say around 24s for most of the race. But that's up to the people out front.
Graham Muir, thank you very much and best of luck tomorrow.
Thanks very much.
Two New Zealand brothers came to Australia a couple of years ago, or filtered through one after the other. The first one here was Dave Hiscock, the younger, taller, more solidly built of the two, and then Neville came across, and they both have set the production race scene alive here, featured with Alan Hales and the Mattich team, now entered to this race by Wellington Motorcycle Centre. They also have been to England and Europe in recent times and shone there as well. Two very hard riders, obviously helped a little by the compatibility coming from two brothers growing up together and knowing each other well, knowing their abilities. Older brother Neville, known a little bit as a crash and burn merchant, in other words, a very hard rider who doesn't mind getting to the limit and sometimes overstepping it. David just about as hard and as quick, but just keeps it in line a little bit more. And as you can see, again on one of the futuristic-looking Suzuki Katanas, with the help of just a little bit of a windscreen there, behind which they can duck just to get clear air streaming over their head, give them a little bit less buffeting on the helmet. This is David, the taller of the two. Streaming off under the bridge on the GSX 750 Suzuki.
The prospectus which the Hiscock brothers, Dave and Neville, had to put out this week to try and raise money after spending $3,500 of their own money to compete in the Yamaha 750. Gentlemen, it seems to me to be really strange for two riders such as yourselves to have to go chasing sponsorship like that.
Yeah, this is right, but we decided to do this race right at the last minute. We managed to get, we decided to do it just on the spur of the moment. Rang up Dave Jones, the organiser, and he says, yeah, go to it, so that's what we did.
Dave, it seems also strange to me that the two Hiscock brothers would spend their own money on going motorcycle racing.
Oh no, we love motorcycle racing, and we'll always do it, but we like to get help as well while we're doing it.
In the last 8 years, you two guys have been together only 3 times. Why don't you race together more often?
Oh, well, it's usually we're in different countries, and there's a lot of other things that come into it apart from wanting to ride together.
I think one of the main reasons is that we both race in the same team back home, and rather than just run one team, our sponsor likes to run 2, so he puts one of us in each team and gets another rider in to complement them.
How are you as a team?
We get on really well, and I think we're both pretty competitive, so we should do all right, I think.
Who's the lead rider amongst the two Hiscocks?
We're not too sure yet.
When's that decided, and how is it decided?
We'll decide that tonight, most probably.
Flip of a coin?
Something like that, yes.
What do you see as your chances tomorrow? There's a lot of incredibly good competition out there.
Oh, yes, there is. Last year that showed that in the same race, but I think we're pretty confident. We haven't been too worried about qualifying and things at the moment. We're more worried about setting our bike up for the race. We'll be going quick in the race, that's for sure.
How quick do you see it being?
I think it'll be pretty much of a sprint race, at least for the first half of the race.
Evan, Dave, Hiscock, thanks very much, and very best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
In trouble earlier in the week in practices, and now has revised its rider combination because the original rider, Vince Sharp, fell and broke a leg on this one of the 2 Matic team bikes. So it's now being shared by Scott Stevens, bringing it into the pits there, and Alan Blanco. 2 good riders, a Ducati Pantar, an unusual bike, a V-twin, 600 cc's, and much renowned for its good braking and handling and great acceleration out of corners. Down in the pits it goes, and a lot of tension mounting for this race tomorrow. $20,000 at stake, 750 kilometres, 287 laps here of the Grand Prix circuit. 2 classes, 340 cc's to 600, and the outright class 601 cc's to 750. Should be a great race, some tremendous teams, and here, let's go down for the final time to David Morrow.
Well, Suzukis have dominated the qualifying time trials here at Oran Park this afternoon, and starting from grid position number 1 will be Bike 8, to be ridden by Rob Phillis and Mick Cole, and their time of 1:22.6 was a clear half second better than anyone else today. On grid 2 will be Richard Schooler and Richard Scott, followed by Rod Cox and Neil Chivers, and they'll be riding a Suzuki. Schooler and Scott are on a Yamaha. Mick Damon and Rod Scolyer from Tasmania, they're riding a Suzuki. They'll start from grid position number 4. Grid 5 will see Hilton Steele and also Terry Turner on a Honda. And the only Kawasaki's in the top 10, Sedge Dest and John Hughes on bike 31, and they'll start from grid 10. Len Willing will start from grid number 7. That's last year's winner. He partners Rod Brown. But until tomorrow at 1:30, 1:30, we'll come back for the Yamaha 750 production.